All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS live video. Got the coverage here for you for the Genesis Invitational. This one's looking like it's going to be a pretty fun one as a whole. Lots of kind of weird news coming through today as well. A lot of questions coming through about Collin Morikawa and his putter situation, which is really just a non-factor as a whole to me. But I can almost guarantee I'm going to get a couple of those questions here as people start to filter in. And then also just, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but Abraham Answer, I tweeted this out. He says he's still in Texas right now, and I bet most of you already know what's going on in Texas. So he is golfing in some winter conditions, and I'm actually just going to pull that up for you guys on the 9 to 5 Twitter page here. I mean, what the heck? He tweeted this out today. He's like, I'm going to try to make it today. We'll see what's going on there, but just a weird situation going on in Texas in general. And I did take a quick peek to see if there's any other like Texas golfers in the field this week, and there are, but I believe they're all okay. We don't have to worry about them this week because they're already at the tournament. So just kind of some interesting things there as a whole. Just it's funny. But yeah, just kind of get into common questions as a whole. So pretty much people are wondering what to do like lineup approach wise, which obviously we'll get into a little bit more. With there being as many quality plays as there are, I don't think we have to worry about ownership too much. And that's kind of been a hot topic somewhat this week, is ownership. And you guys know me, I really don't give about ownership at all in PGA DFS because we know the name of the game. It's get 6 for 6 across the cut line. Who cares if someone that is a quality play is chalky? Because if they make the cut and if they do well, which is probably why they're chalky, it's going to be fine. Like if a chalky play gets a top 10, who cares? Like, job done then, So I typically don't worry about it too much. If you have 4 chalky players in a lineup, you're still most likely not going to close out your build with like those other 2 chalky type plays. So it's something that I never really worry about when I'm doing my lineup process, especially if we're only building like 1 through 20 lineups. You just don't have to worry about ownership too much. Okay. Now, if you start to build like 150 lineups, then yeah, sure. Maybe you need to gain some ownership leverage some places, but for the average like DFS player, they don't have to worry about ownership just because the name of the game is to build the best lineups that you can. Really, if you spend time worrying about everyone else in PGA DFS, you're probably not going to make your best builds. So just focus on getting 6 for 6 across the cut line, and you'll be okay there. That's just how it goes. That's just kind of the approach that you should have really in PGA DFS across the board. So, I don't know. I get why people talk about ownership. It's kind of like a fun buzzword and kind of a buzzy thing to talk about. Like, who else is everyone on? Well, who gives a fuck? Just play the best players. And, more times than not, you're going to be right. More times than not, it's going to be fine. Like, I don't listen to other people's content because I don't care what other people are saying. We know, based on the stats, based on the reason for them, based on the course history, who the correct plays are going to be. It's just whether or not they go out and produce. One of those correct plays, once again, would have been Abraham Answer, but, might have to do some switches there tomorrow morning because I have him in a decent amount of builds here. Doesn't look like he's going to make the trip. So just kind of interesting as a whole there. And then, really not that many other common questions. So I think we can get right into the betting picks here, guys. So, let's just get it kicked off here. And I did already post a video on this going way in depth on this. So don't have to go too crazy with it because I already did a video on it. So just kind of looking it over, this field's absolutely stacked. And with that, we're getting some great values this week across the board. I mean, we're getting, we're getting the Jon Rahm at 12-1 on DK Sportsbook. And then we're also getting Bryson DeChambeau at 17-1, which absolutely seems insane to me. Those are some nice odds. So we'll pull it up here. So yeah, I don't really get it, honestly, guys. 12-1 for Jon Rahm and then Bryson 17-1. I mean, that's highly appealing. I was really shocked that actually Bryson was like the lowest of the elite plays because we just know Bryson. I mean, new age Bryson. Built Bryson is how I put it on the 9 to 5 write-up. He should be good to go. I mean, this should be like the perfect course for him. It's an opportunities gain course. It's a distance course. It's a strokes gain approach. All things that he excels at. he should kind of almost be a lock. Hey, what's up, Andrew? So, would I take Xander, Homa, or Morikawa and Hovland this week? Yeah, that's interesting there. I would probably go Xander and Homa there, although I don't think you can really go wrong with Victor Hovland and Morikawa. So I'll just pull up those two real quick here. Since you got the question, I'll pull it up. So I like Morikawa and Hovland a decent amount, but my worry with them, and I'll pull it up. My worry with them is that they don't have like a ton of starts here at this course on the tour. Now, I mentioned this on the 9-5 write-up as well. It's like pretty much all these golfers have at least played here, probably at some point of their golfing career throughout their lives. They probably played here, but it's a little bit different when you get to a PGA Tour event. So where I worry about Victor Hovland is that, 65 in driving distance, 75th in strokes gained approach, and 85th in bogey avoidance. For a guy that, doesn't technically have the course history, I kind of do worry about him, but obviously he's been in great recent form. First, 31st, second place finish. Yeah, Victor Hovland, fine play, but I don't know. I'm kind of the most worried about him because Kyle Morikawa, I'm fine with. I know once more people pop in, we're probably going to get some questions about Kyle Morikawa, so I'll attack it now. So people might be worried about his putting with the whole whatever, forget what it's called now. Doesn't matter. The little weird putting grip where you do. He's going to switch to that, which maybe can only help. I don't think it's going to get much worse because he's been a poor putter this year. It's kind of just a non-factor to me. The worry with him is kind of his driving distance as a whole. He's been strong in opportunities gained, strong in birdie to bogey ratio. He played well here last year, and he's been in good recent form. So like I do like those plays, but I would rather just go with the two guys that have strong course history here, which is Xander and Max Homa, who's pretty much just in as good of recent form as Colin Morikawa and as Victor Hovland there. So really no issue going with like these two. To me, I like it a little bit better. Max Homa's top 4 in the model, but once again, that's kind of just because of his stat rank where it hasn't exactly accumulated for how well he's been playing recently. He played horribly at the start of the year, and that's kind of why it's still the way that it is. Stat wise, that's going to get better as the year goes on, most likely, but recent form rank 14th. Course history rank could be a little bit better, but 2 straight solid finishes here, including a top 5 last year. So I'd much rather go those two for sure. But again, so kind of like the betting side of it as well. We got some deep shot odds, like 50-1 for Joaquin Niemann. Absolutely love that. And that's I like it a little bit more in terms of a betting focus because, Joaquin Niemann, great stat fit, great recent form. If you're a little bit worried about him killing your lineups in PGA DFS and you do both, kind of like Joaquin Niemann there at 50-1, that's something that does make sense to me with that approach. And then going down to like Cameron Tringale 8-1, I like that. And Carlos Ortiz 8-1. Those guys are both solid plays. Both guys that, you just should be on in general. Thoughts on a punt, Vaughn Taylor. So Vaughn Taylor does have good course history. I'm honestly fine with it. I'll pull him up here as well. I think he's made the cut 4 straight years or 3 straight years. Yeah, 3 straight years. So, really solid course history, which is kind of surprising. Then we look at his recent form, kind of decent. Kind of, he's fine. Honestly, I'm good with Vaughn Taylor as a punt play. Now, obviously, we know he's kind of a bad stat fit and, hasn't been exactly dominating thus far, but he ranks out as someone that's going to be right around the cut line. And as price point, I'm fine with it. I definitely want a different route value-wise, but, Vaughn Taylor, I'm perfectly fine with as a value. I'm not going to talk you out of that play. It does make a decent amount of sense for a guy that has, made 3 out of his last 5 starts. I'm fine with it for a punt. That makes sense. Then going lower, like Sam Burns to me at 125-1 for a guy that's just that good of a stat fit. That's something that's really popping to me and something that I really do like to look at. Same thing with Wyndham Clark, 150-1. That's something that I feel good about. Hey, what's up, Brian? I feel really good about Wyndham Clark, 150-1, honestly, guys. And this is another one of those plays where I kind of would rather bet it than I would play it in PGA DFS because with Wyndham Clark, you're kind of searching for the best outcome with him. And I don't exactly like to take that risk that much in PGA DFS. That's kind of the worry there. It's that he could burn you in a decent amount of builds by missing the cut, whereas he's just going to burn one bet if he doesn't play well. That's fine. That's just kind of how it goes. And then that's kind of it on the lower end. Don't need Matthew Naismith popped up. I just like to mention him. He's a good stat fit. Don't be surprised if he does decent, but don't be surprised if he misses the cut. And let's see here. A lot of people have already seen me hype up Stewart Cink 501. I don't really get it. They've had a whole week to like adjust his outright odds here, and they just haven't done it yet. Maybe that's because people are betting it and they're just trying to get some free money from like people like me who knows that he's a good stat fit and know that these are horrible odds for a guy that's that good. Like, you can't tell me that Stewart Cink isn't a better play than Peter Malnati, Dylan Fratelli, Maverick McNeely, Francesco Molinari, Gary Woodland for how horrible he's played recently, Cameron Smith. I mean, the stats are there. It's just kind of insane to me. Just 500-1 for a guy that's that good of a play. Don't want to go too much into that. It's just kind of like surprising to me. So we'll get into the Fanduel picks here. Tell me about Nick Taylor and Mckenzie Hughes. So Nick Taylor, I'm going to pull him up here. Let's see. The other Taylor in the field. Let's see. So Nick Taylor, 65th in bogey avoidance, 72nd in birdie to bogey ratio, which are his top two stats. So, that's kind of a worry there. Tournament history, missed cut in 2020, then 3 straight made cuts prior to that. So not horrible there. He's made, 4 out of his last 5 cuts as well. For a value, I mean, it's not horrible. I would be kind of fine with Nick Taylor as a value, in all honesty. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy with it. Like 2%, if you're like max entering, I probably wouldn't go crazy with it at all. But I'd be fine with it. And then Mckenzie Hughes, you asked about. Let's pull him up. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not really seeing it with Mckenzie Hughes. 2 straight missed cuts here. Course or recent form, not that good as well. So I probably wouldn't be rolling with Mckenzie Hughes. Yeah, I just don't see it with him. Nick Taylor, I can make a case for, though. All right, so time to get into the Fanduel build. And I don't know how many guys kind of took into consideration my Fanduel lineup that I posted on here last week, but it was pretty spot on. It was Berger, let me just forget. I tweeted out. It was like Berger, Casey, Strillman, I think Cameron Piercy or Hank Lebioda, and then one other player. Pretty much if you played that, you probably had, it was like guaranteed top 1% finish. So, let's get into it. It's kind of, Fanduel is kind of easier at the end of the week because you already went through, you did your Draftkings builds, and then you kind of just figure out the lineup process from there because you kind of know who are the top plays and kind of the top mispriced plays. And then we got Mikey wondering about Kyle Stanley as a play on Fanduel. So is he in the min price by chance? 7.9? That's not bad. I'd be fine with that. I'm kind of fine with him on DraftKings this week as well. He's kind of a shoulder shrug play where if you end up on him, you end up on him. He's been in fine recent form. He's a guy that seems like he's getting back on track. I don't mind Kyle Stanley this week, so I'd be fine with that. All right, so kind of looking at it. So could we fit Dustin Johnson? I just want to fit like the top 3 players in my model into a build on Fanduel. So let's try it. DJ, Rahm, Cantley. Can we do that? That's kind of the attempt there. Let's see. We're obviously going to have to go really low there. Maybe we'll just put Kyle Stanley in there for Mikey there. We'll do it. Stanley at 7.9. And who else could we fit in there potentially? Because, that's the thing I like about Fanduel is that you can make a lot of lineup approaches work on Fanduel, and they're not bad lineups for the most part. So I'll go Cink, go for that upside there. And then who else do we have down here? Brendan Steele at the min price. That is kind of crazy that he's min price on Fanduel. I got a question about that as well. That's kind of appealing to me. But we have 9.4 left over. Kind of just go in this lineup approach. And you don't even have to go this low, I don't think. You could go, Doug Gims, fine. Matt Jones is someone that should make the cut. You could go that route if you want to, a little bit more. Like Matt Jones, Kyle Stanley. And then you have 8.7 left over. Luke List you could go with. Wyndham Clark. We're going Clark for this example purposes here. Yeah, Wyndham Clark, I'm fine with that. So pretty much what we're getting here is, the top 3 plays and then 3 guys that should be right around a make cut on FanDuel. Like, I feel pretty good about that. But you could even go more fair and balanced with that this week. I mean, you don't have to pay up for DJ. You could even go much more fair and balanced approach. You could go Xander. Let's get the rest of them out. Xander, Bryson, Cantlay if you wanted to as well. You could do that route. But you could go down to, like, where are they? Carlos Ortiz, who we kind of just established as like a phenomenal play this week. Then Tringale's kind of priced cheap. Then Burns or something like that. And then you got 9K left over for really whoever you want. You want to go Lanto Griffin, you could go Lanto Griffin, you could go Corey Connors, who Andrew asked about earlier. So thoughts on, or I guess both these guys. Lanto Griffin and Corey Connors. So Lanto Griffin does seem like he's a much better GPP play. Don't exactly trust him too much to make the cut, whereas Corey Connors is kind of the exact opposite. I kind of trust Corey Connors to make the cut, but I don't exactly trust him to like go off and have an elite finish. And I'll pull those 2 up here on the 905 cheat sheet to kind of compare those 2. So Connors and Lanto there. And this is kind of how I like to use this lineup too. Is like when I'm stuck trying to close out my build, just pull up 2 players, kind of compare them, and make the best decision from there. So kind of squeeze this in a little bit closer here. All right. So Corey Connors ranks out 38th in the model. Lanto ranks out 42nd. So they are close, but let's kind of break it down further. So recent form-wise, Lanto's been a little bit hit or miss, but obviously the hits are there for him, whereas Corey Connors been very solid for a while. But course history-wise, Corey Connors missed a cut here last year, and Lanto, finished 37th. I'm fine with that. Stat-wise, Lanto ranks out worse. Corey Connors ranks out better, but let's see why. I'll start with Corey Connors. Not List. Dude, Luke List is not a bad play this week. But Corey Connors here, you can kind of see it. Nothing really bad at all with Corey Connors. Driving distance, a little bit of a worry there. We'd want that to be a little bit better. And bogey avoidance, we'd want that to be a little bit better as well. Especially at a course like this where if he can't like make up ground off the tee and he's making some bogeys, that could really hurt him this week. So, GPP-wise, I'd probably want to go Lanto. And for cash, I'd probably just look somewhere else. Although Corey Connors does rank out better in the model, this is kind of where it gets a little bit different. Lanto a little bit longer off the tee, stroke skin approach. He doesn't have that good of bogey avoidance as well, but he has shown, some upside recently. So I'm kind of hanging my hat on that with Lanto. Yeah. So I don't think he's a free square. I'll pull him up here again. Corey Connors can't putt. Yeah, maybe you should try the putting style that Kyle Morikawa is trying there, Brian. But yeah, I don't think Brendan Steele's exactly a free square there, DFS chef. I'll pull him up here. He's definitely a player that if you are playing on FanDuel a decent amount, if you're entering more than like 3 lineups, I would say definitely need to have him in there a little bit. But I'll pull him up here, 68th on the model. So he does rank out as someone that should be right around the cut line. You don't want to force someone, I guess, into a build that much when they're right around the cut line and they're not exactly like popping anywhere. Strong ball striking, that's great. Opportunities gained 12th. But he's still making a decent amount of bogeys. So if he cleans that up a little bit, maybe, course history is okay enough and recent form has been solid. But no, not a free square. Like I wouldn't go too crazy with it. I would say, maybe if I was making 2 lineups, I'd definitely put him in 1. If I was making like 10 lineups, I'd probably have 40% of him. I wouldn't want to go too crazy with it. That's kind of my approach there. Luke List makes the cut. All right, man. I'll see you in there on Monday evening. I'll pull up Luke List here. I don't know. He's kind of catching my eye. I never really like to play Luke List that much because everyone likes to talk him up a ton, but he's really not bad. Driving distance is there. The secondary stats, if you will, are not that great, but ball striking, I'm really hanging my hat on that. I'm hanging my hat on ball striking. I'm hanging my hat on driving distance and his course history here. Solid course history, last 3 years, 3 out of 4 years, top 30 finish, and then 1 miscut. And then recent form-wise has been solid as well. So I'll see you in there on Monday. What are your thoughts on Siwoo Kim? Siwoo Kim, I'm not on at all. I'm just reading DFS Chef. It's weird. Like, there's like a community base on DFS that loves to play Luke List, And then there's a community base that pretty much hates to play Luke List. I think it's because of the other community that loves to play him, but kind of like gets a sour taste in our mouths. That it's like you're either one or the other. I don't know. It's one of those weird things. It is. But, I'm going to be on him this week. Thoughts on Siwoo Kim? So Siwoo Kim. So where I struggle with Siwoo Kim is that he typically is just like a quality GPP play every freaking week. Like if you played Siwoo Kim in every tournament that he played in, that's not going to be good for you, but he's going to hit every now and again with a nice top 10 from out of nowhere, or maybe potentially win. That's just kind of Siwoo Kim. So, that could easily be this week. It's tough to have like a strong opinion on Siwoo Kim any week. And it's kind of the weeks that you start to trust him is when he kind of hurts you. So overall, not like a horrible play. Most recently he's played well here, but he has 2 missed cuts here. Recent form, once again, kind of has been horrible after, kind of a strong start, but that's kind of just the life of rostering Siwoo Kim. He's just a guy that can kind of get hot and start to play well really whenever. He's one of those few guys where you really just never have a strong inclination on them. So if you want to play him, you can play him, but if not, you don't have to. I'm trying to finish out this Fanduel build here. Let's see, 9K. I mean, you guys can finish it how you'd like to. We'll go Lanto Griffin just for Andrew's question there to finish out this build for example purposes. But I really like going back to Fanduel after like doing all my rosters on Draftkings. It just makes the lineup process a lot easier. 2 players I want to touch on just real quick on Fanduel here too as well. And just in general, Charlie Hoffman, I really like. And that's going to be one I'm going to pull up. So he had his back issues, and we definitely still need to be worried about that. But besides his starts with the back issues, where he kind of had to withdraw there 2 tournaments in a row, and then he missed the cut, kind of toughed it out. Maybe he was just playing like shit. Who knows? But before that, solid recent form. I was on him the week he withdrew with the mid-exposure play that week, and I was like, that sucks. He was like -8. He was in contention that week. My best lineup, that's what it was. My best lineup going ahead that week. I didn't have that many 6 for 6. But he was in like one of them that was 6 for 6, poised to have a good weekend, and he freaking withdrew. Like that sucked. But like including that tournament, he had been in great golf or in great form with his golf game, and it's like no surprise that he had a nice finish at Pebble Beach. He's a strong stat rank, and just think, I'm not exactly sure. His withdrawals rounds have to be included in this. So even with those rounds where he kind of played like shit. I'm swearing a lot this one. I apologize, guys. But it's fine. I don't have this set for kids to view, so I can swear however much I want. You guys can't in the chat, though. That's just for me to do. But yeah, Charlie Hoffman at 7.3 is very intriguing. He's one of the guys where I have gone on a little bit more as the week has went on. Hopefully he doesn't withdraw, but for GPP purposes, I actually like him. I think he's kind of sneaky. And on FanDuel, it's a decent price point for him. You could go like really like him and Wyndham Clark decently, so don't mind it. So Molinari has a membership here. We'll pull him up. So, we should never really fall into like the course home narrative. We see it be like a reason to play someone and it doesn't work out, or like Xander. Which tournament was that? A couple tournaments ago where he played college there a ton, and he just really hadn't had the best course history, and then he barely makes the cut and then finishes like second place or top 5 or whatever that is. It's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like a mental hurdle with these players. Sometimes it's that either they, they know the course, but sometimes they just kind of overthink it, put a little bit too much pressure on them, which is kind of the name of the game in golf. It's like some of these golfers just put a little bit too much pressure on them, and they're not as loose as they need to be. Maybe they overthink a couple of shots, or maybe their routine is kind of thrown off because they're playing at a familiar place. I don't know. I'm not on Molinari this week. And to be honest, I didn't know that, Jeffrey, but kind of interesting, I guess. I don't know. I just don't like him this week. No Hoffman, it's kind of weird. The players that like burn you, that you kind of go back to the well with, and Hoffman's one of those. Where are we at on the answer this week? So I know you just got in there, so I don't know if you saw this, DFS chef, but let me